Alright, YouTube, Stocks by the Numbers, welcome back. Wanted to get back in action here with something else that caught my attention. This one's a little bit more of a speculative play, but if you recall, this was a company that was basically a brand name on everyone's trading list. And this was a company that was popping. I remember it got up to maybe like $6, $7. A lot of people were involved back at $1 or $2. This is an ammunition company. Name of the company, Ammo Inc., ticker symbol POWW. Stock right now, $2.14 on the NASDAQ, by the way. $2.14, down 7 cents, a little over 3% here on the day. We're about 60 cents off of the 52-week high, and off the 52-week low, and the 52-week high here of about $6 a share. So we do have some room to run here. But going back here, you can see that the stock came down, bounced off this like 285 level, bounced up, rejected that 20-day simple moving average, and then the company comes out with light EPS and revenue numbers and has this nice gap down from that 286 level, right? So we gap down, and now we've been kind of bouncing around in this channel. Now, since then, the company reported earnings and had another big miss there on the revenue side. And then last quarter we come and we can see a beat on the revenue side by about $6.5 million and a beat on the EPS side as well. That began climbing the stock up, retracement fib, and then has bounced back to that fib. And if we zoom in, you can see that this is basically the trend line that we're bouncing off of here. Even if you want to pull it out to the bottom of that candle there, you can see that we're really shouldn't technically go much lower. We were in this upward channel. We broke out to try to retest this trend line, and now we should technically bounce up off of it and begin to run and not only retest this fib level here, in my opinion, but more importantly, try to get to the top trend line looking like about 257, 256 maybe, and we should have a little bit of a run up going into this earnings report. Estimates of a loss of 2 cents a share and revenue of only 38.82 million. Now, technically, the revenue of this company, as we showed going back to the last several quarters, has been a little inconsistent, right? But they are technically, they had a big pop after 2020, right? And we kind of know why, because everyone kind of felt that the shit was going to hit the fan, so everyone started buying up firearms and ammunition and food and, everything that they can get their hands on, basically. But what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about a company that, again, looks potentially stable here, climbing against this trend line, could potentially be viewed, actually, it's not really, I want to call it an upward triangle, but again, you're kind of just seeing what you want to see here. But in my opinion, we really should continue to climb inside of this channel and at least get back to this fib, 245, before earnings. And that would be 40 cents, which would be roughly 20% higher than where we are here. Now, if I'm right, and these numbers come in above analyst expectations, not only will the stock potentially get to the top of this channel, but it could try to break out here up to this next fib here of 260, and then potentially run up to fill the gap at the next fib level of 288, gap fill 286. So we have the potential here to see something pretty nice for us. We could see roughly, what's that? That's going to be like a 30% return, right? Because we're talking 74 cents on $2.14. So we're going to see a potential nice climb here in the stock. And if you did want to almost roll the dice, if you wanted to play it on the option side, if you buy out several months and you want to step in on like 2.5s or 3s, you could potentially see a nice little return there as well. But in my opinion, if this goes according to plan, this is going to work out nicely. And again, I had the trend line actually down there at that, and you can see that we're basically there. I mean, maybe we can drop another 1 or 2 cents to like slightly break down below it and then kind of climb everything back up. But I really do like this one, in my opinion. I really do. I really do. Estimates have been decreasing on the EPS side, but the company beat 3 out of 4. And we can see the drop down from the 70 to the 60 to the sub 50 to the sub 40. And now we may potentially be having our little U-turn recovery up to 43.68 million last quarter. So the company, of course, is struggling with the profitability. But over the years, again, as we see, going from a few million up to almost 15 million to north of 60, and then obviously the shit hit the fan, and then we jumped up to almost $250 million in revenue. And even if you thought, oh well, all those people already bought their guns, oh they're conspiracy theorists, they're nuts. Well, look what happened the following year. They still came in north of 190 million. So, they also talk about laser tracking bullets and whatnot. So they have a lot of technology going into this ammunition as well. And, of course, could be used in the military sector as well, as you see here, military, sport shooting, self-defense, law enforcement. So, a situation like this, also remember, as I mentioned in the last video talking about Churchill Downs, we have our vices, our gambling, our alcohol, but also on the flip side, if it really does become the Wild West again out there, obviously an ammunition company is going to benefit from that. And of course, more importantly, if for any reason any people at the top, at the government, want to pull some shit, then obviously ammunition is going to be needed as well. So that's why kind of any way you look at it, pretty much in a negative light, of course, because that's kind of the environment we're in here. But any way you look at it, it's a necessary evil, as they say, so to speak. But more importantly, not even talking about the whole mental aspect of it. More importantly, again, we do have this tight little channel that we've been in, and I think that if they come in here, 40 million, 41.2 million or something, and they beat these estimates by a couple of million, I do believe that the traders and the investors will step in. They will have a little bit more kind of renewed confidence in POW and potentially break it out of this channel and get it back up here again. Even if it climbs back to this fib, you're looking at, what did we say? You're looking at like almost a 20% return, right? And then obviously if it gets up to that fib, you're looking at even more. But if it does climb and really fill that gap, we could see something big. Market cap right now is only $250 million, 251 million. And you can see last year the company almost did that in annual revenue. Now, of course, again, I understand they were profitable and then they went net income negative, which obviously isn't a good sign. And anytime these companies had their margins go down, they've been kind of beating up the stock. But again, I just have a feeling like it's a low ball quarter. And if they can come out and if they can come in above these expectations, I really do think we're going to see big moves here. We have two analysts watching it. One gives a buy, one gives a strong buy, one gives a hold. So we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 3. But look at these forecasts, right? This is interesting, right? So for 2022, 2023, the company expenses were going to increase, operating expenses, margins were going to decrease. So, they have them with low expectations here for 22 and 23. But now look at 24. Look at how profitable they're expecting the company to be. But interestingly enough, if we switch over here, you can see last year estimates of 185 million, and you can see the company came in above 190 million. And then you switch here to 23, they're only expecting 160 million. So, if people really continue to shoot their guns, then obviously they're going to need more ammunition, and 160 million, it does seem doable in my opinion. But then more importantly, look at 2024. Estimates of 164 million. So I just find all of this very, very interesting because they're forecasting that the company is basically plateaued, they're flattening out, right? And they're not expecting any bigger or better things for the next year or two. And if the company can actually start to come in with decent numbers, I'm telling you, they're going to be underestimating the stock. Right now, in my opinion, it's undervalued here in the numbers. And if they come in with the revenue to actually back it up, then I do think that the stock is absolutely going to explode. Not only back into like that 3 range, but again, when the stock begins to explode, then all the traders are going to be talking about it. Everyone's going to be, trying to squeeze it back up to $5, $6, $7 where it was, right? If those little kids want to jump in on it. But overall, I do like the company, really any way you look at it. And again, I do know that we've seen some of these revenue numbers dip and the profitability numbers dip, but overall, I do like the stock. And if we switch over here, where was I? So you can see 2 out of 3 beats on annual expectations. Same thing on the EPS side. But more importantly, you can see the debt kind of bouncing around, right? 14 million down to 10.6, down to 5, back up to about 14 million and change. But more importantly, you can see the cash flow had a big jump there in 2020. But since coming down in 21, you can see cash about 23.25 million, now up to about almost 40 million. So, you know, that's why I'm saying the company, I feel, is much more positive than negative, regardless of even a few of these margin numbers slipping down. Look at the assets significantly outweighing the liabilities. That, in my opinion, obviously a very good sign. And if we switch over here, we can see, again, slight dip down in the revenue. You can see cost of goods has been increasing, obviously. And the operating expenses has significantly increased since they took that big jump. But basically in line, right? Revenue jumped about 300%. And you can see operating expenses jumped, actually maybe about 200%, right? So slightly outpacing that, but it was the decrease in the profit margin that you know, that's why, in my opinion, they really kind of beat up the stock. Again, the operating income, it jumped up to positive and then dropped back down to negative. So, you know, analysts are sitting there almost like, oh, you got my hopes up for nothing, right? You kind of faked me out. We thought it was going to be big, and it turned out not to be. But, oh, wait, I wanted to go back to, where am I? Yeah, no, we got cash flow. Yeah, right. No, the balance sheet I wanted to show you guys because, again, look at the assets up here north of 400 million and the liabilities only about 40 million, right? So it's about 10-to-1 ratio. The equity has been maintaining that like 370 plus million mark. We got a little bit of debt going on. Look at the book value per share, 315, right? So, again, if the company had to close its doors and they had to liquidate everything in their name, they're technically worth $3.15 a share. So right now, the technical book value of this stock is roughly 50% higher than where it's currently trading at, right? So keep that little feather in your cap. But again, we do see some of these margins getting hit. Am I on annual? No. We come down to annual, and you can see again, look at the gross margin was up at 31. Now it's slipping, down into the 20s. The operating margin again was positive. It was up at 15%, and it pulled back now to, minus 1.75%. EBITDA was almost 23%. Now it's 7.75%. And the net margin we looked at before, the company was almost at 14% profitability and pulled back to 2.4% negative. So, again, we do have some positives, we do have some negatives, but overall, I do really like the company. I just keep saying that because, in my opinion, I have a feeling that what I'm projecting is going to potentially happen. But again, this is my opinion, but only time will tell. But, of course, the company could break the trend line and could drop back down to $2 here and test this fib, and, obviously it's not going to work out immediately. But earnings coming out around August 15th, and I think that I think that the company could do it. Again, I'm being a little bit optimistic. But again, we are kind of in this little sideways channel. We've been here for several months. Again, we have a book value roughly 50% higher than where we are. Assets are significantly outweighing liabilities. Market cap, $250 million. We're doing 190, 200 million in change for the year. And that's why I feel like if they can turn it around and start to come in even at or slightly above analyst expectations for these 2023 quarters, then we're going to be off to the races here with POWW on the NASDAQ, Ammo Inc. And I'm actually still looking at Churchill Downs over here. Look at this. Haven't even switched over. Have not, I typed in ammo when it's POW. So we come down here. We can see a bounce off of that moving average right there. And we pulled back to 214, slight rejection. But you can see, again, look at the bottom Bollinger Band, 202. So if I do happen to be wrong and you did step in or plan to step in and then it has a pullback to 202 first, I guess, my apologies. I'll take it on the chin. Looks like the MACD has been slipping, kind of still heading downward. But again, we could potentially bounce off that trend line, and this can start to curl Monday, Tuesday if the stock begins to climb and bounce off of that trend line we looked at. RSI on the weekly sitting a touch below 50. Wait, did we look at it for the daily? Yeah, RSI 53 1/3. Okay, we're okay. We switch over here. And also the 50-day on the daily. Did you guys see that? 50-day on the daily sitting now at 196. So that's why, like, worst case scenario, yes, it could drop maybe like 8, 9, 10%, you know, and get back to that 2, slightly sub 2 level. But in my opinion, I do think it's going to be good. The MACD just slightly climbing basically since the ball dropped the entire time that this stock has been in kind of this sideways channel. The MACD has kind of just been slightly purring along. RSI on the weekly sitting a touch below 50. So that's why I'm saying the company still potentially has room to run here on the RSI side, at least. And we can see, again, a potential retest to this fib here at 245, or a potential even short-term breakout, 255.6, up to that fib of 260. So you could play this either way. In the long term, if you want to consistently add to it, if they keep it down here at like 250 for a while, you can just consistently piece your way in and just keep adding to shares over the long term and set yourself up several years down the road if the company begins to rally and climb in value. But even here in the short term, again, like we said, going back to that fib 245, that's 30 cents. That's roughly what is that, like 1/7? What's that, 14.7%? So you can make yourself potentially quick 15% here if you even wanted to flip it real quick with this bounce off this trend line. But again, if you want to let it run up, if it does what we anticipate, if this projection is accurate, then again, even if you want to sell up here, you're going to make yourself a pretty penny here. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, stocks by the numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up, like the video, helps out the algorithm, helps me get more eyes on the channel. More importantly, help me help you. Push the subscribe button. That is our handshake agreement. I will bring you any potential ideas or situations that I see that could set up, that could be nice for everybody. If I like a company long-term, short-term, I'll try to let you guys know. Again, I have the Discord. Discord's in the description. If you guys want to come in, you want to BS a little bit, you want to talk about if you're killing it, if you're picking good stocks, what stocks we should look at, or if you're having a rough time and you need a little bit of help, you need a little bit of direction, no problem. But again, if I have any short-term call-outs or anything that I see setting up, I'll try to call it out in the Discord. But again, short-term trading in this uncertain market, in my opinion, we're a little overinflated. So trading up here at these levels is much, much more difficult than looking for situations like our POWs or our Churchill Downs that are setting up for us over time. And a good example, again, is UAA, Under Armour. We had a whole longer-term situation and pattern setting up for us, right? So we were much more confident in basically knowing where the stock was going to go, where it should go. And that's what we saw. We saw the pop breakout from the very low 7s. The stock touched $8 and have since pulled back. I said it was going to touch that fib of 758. And that's essentially what the stock did, and then kind of bounced and been chilling about that level. So as we're seeing here, the short-term instant scalping day trading is much, much more difficult to time and to get consistently accurate, as opposed to, what do I always say, being patient, taking what the market gives you, not forcing trades, and you can see that we're starting to hit a couple of them right on the head, right? So, yeah. But go back, handshake agreement, subscribe to the channel. And moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky and we're volatile and we're very uncertain. So I want to wish everyone success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. I want to thank you for stopping by. Have a good weekend.